me you are belonging, my little wooden treasure chest. The Cockney coachman says, you blokes going someplace? The German ringmaster on Dumbo, I do the safety spiel over there. The ringmaster says, well, as we say to the animals, this is the end of the lion. Fantasyland.
We made partnerships with George Lucas, for example, when Michael Eisner and Frank Wells came into the company.
George was kind of the next generation of a Walt Disney, and we decided to bring Star Wars and Indiana Jones into the park. We hadn't made new animated movies for a while that were the kind of blockbusters that we finally got with Beauty and the Beast and Aladdin and Little Mermaid and so forth. And it was kind of a creative stopgap before the Disney company itself kind of reinvented itself.
And they were searching for ways to make the company more relevant to the audience. And Star Wars was the obvious choice.
Well, for me, the interesting things in terms of advancing the art form that is a Disney-themed show would probably begin with the introduction of Star Tours, which was the first time people had been put into kind of a military simulator experience, and we used it to tell a story.
In the case of Star Wars, we sort of said, what are the things in the movie that you always wanted to do? And I think everyone who saw Star Wars had that fantasy of being Luke Skywalker and being in the trenches of the Death Star and piloting an X-Wing fighter. And so that became a big part of what Star Tours is all about.
True to what Walt had done, first with audio animatronics and all the milestones that came in before me, I knew we had to take it to the next layer. While everyone was busy emulating Disney, it was time for Disney to go up another, bar on the ladder. And so we were working on what I termed the enhanced motion vehicle, which we introduced with Indiana Jones here. So it took the idea of being able to feel the experience in Star Tours as you watch a cinematic presentation. We feel the experience in Indy as we travel through an environment like Pirates of the Caribbean. So when a snake comes out to attack us, the vehicle goes away, almost like, being scared in the dark with a boo, and we can react that way, and you can feel the excitement of all these things happening.
And something that becomes that big and a part of the culture belongs at Disneyland. And I think, certainly that transcended all the other things. It's the same thing with our association with Pixar and the fabulous characters and stories that we jointly have helped to create, whether it be Buzz and Woody, on the Toy Story side, which, have become, worldwide phenomenons.
So if Disneyland is stepping into the movies, today we know that lots of kids love playing video games. So how do we take a video game and turn it into a three-dimensional experience in our parks?
So if you look at Buzz Lightyear's Astro Blasters, you're not only riding through the world of Buzz Lightyear, but you're actually a space ranger helping Buzz Lightyear accomplish his mission.
Part of it is we take our cue from the entertainment in the world that we experience and we enjoy, and part of it is just, letting your mind go crazy and coming up with ideas and knowing that we have an R&D group at Imagineering that pretty much can deliver almost anything you can dream up.
But people are taking these kinds of venues and moving them forward with 3D and Omnimax and integrating them into environments and making them more open and more free and more engulfing for the actual audience.
Soaring over California is such an extraordinary experience for our guests. Some people say everybody gets a front row seat, and you actually get to see the whole state in a matter of about 10 minutes in a ride vehicle that was created literally in somebody's garage as an erector set when we were trying to solve the engineering problem.
So the challenge for us as Imagineers, since we're putting you into the movie in 3 dimensions in our park, is how do we raise the bar on the magic? How do we bring the wow into everything we do?
We'll raise the bar by raising the quality level. We'll raise the bar by providing things that are different, that haven't been done before. We'll raise the bar by wow moments, by giving people experiences that cause them to say, only Disney would think of that, or only Disney can do that.
Transforming movies into attractions is the basis of Disneyland, from Davy Crockett to the early animated films. That is Disneyland. Disneyland is the three-dimensional realization of two-dimensional celluloid product. Soon it'll be three-dimensional celluloid product. But in any event, it's what's on the big screen ends up being something you can walk inside. And you can walk inside with your whole family.
You know, I think it's only right that movies are now made on Disneyland attractions, since when Disneyland was built, everything was taken from movies. You know, Disneyland was built by a bunch of movie people that, you know, built movie sets. And that's the reason Disneyland's at 5/8 scale, is it's a three-dimensional movie set, and the attractions, basically all the original attractions for the most part, came from movies.
Well, here we are 50 years later, and Pirates of the Caribbean is now a box office smash in the form of not only one, but two movies. But the most interesting thing about it is now we've taken the references and the stories from the movie and put them back into the attraction. So now when you ride Pirates of the Caribbean at Disneyland or Walt Disney World, you're going to find Johnny Depp. You're going to find Barbossa. Our newest story to be told at Disneyland is a rework of an old favorite. So we've married a classic, the submarines, with a brand new story, Finding Nemo.
I have seen not only the renderings for the submarine attraction at Disneyland, I've walked the catacombs of the attraction in the dust, in the mud, and I am incredibly excited.
So the submarines with Nemo and friends will bring a whole new generation of guests to see a classic attraction with Nemo. I can't be more excited about it opening.
This is a trend that will continue as these partnerships and as these ideas really that become universal and become just a part of our ether.
There is a word that you hear often called the Disneyland that never was. Well, what is that? Well, for every attraction that we actually get developed and open here at Disneyland, I would say there's probably 20 that don't make it.
The Disneyland that never was. All the great ideas that are hidden away in the drawers that have never been built. We recently came across an idea for an attraction that kind of predates Star Tours. It was intended for Frontierland, and there would be a room full of mechanical horses, like those things you see out in front of grocery stores where the kids sit on the horse and bounce up and down. And so you'd sit on those things in front of a movie screen, and they were going to shoot a movie of a posse chasing through the West with the sheriff out front and all the other horses riding it. And there were all these drawings detail the whole thing. You'd put the camera on a pickup truck in the middle of the posse and videotape and cinemascope this big Western adventure. Then in the attraction, you'd sit on the horse, on the mechanical horse, and bounce up and down. That never got built either.
Sometimes, you know, in this realm of the Disneyland that never was, there are attractions that are developed, like the Museum of the Weird, that actually morph into an attraction that opens here at Disneyland. And in that case, it was the Haunted Mansion. It was something that Rolly Crump, one of our early designers, had developed.
And I did a candle man that was melting, and I did a chair that stood up and talked. And while I'm working on all of this, everybody else, the management at WED and the art director said, you know, that stuff's too weird. Walt's not going to like that. And they put all my stuff on a table and against the wall in the corner. Finally, Walt said, well, is that it? And Dick Irvine said, yes, Walt, that's it. He says, what's this stuff in the corner? So he and I both scooted our chairs over and sat in front of all this stuff, and I took him through it. He said, but it's weird. And I said, yeah. And he said, but how are you going to use it? So we went back and forth like this about 3 or 4 times. He says, I'm out of here. And he got up out of his chair and left the room. Everybody said, you know, Rolly, we told you he wouldn't like it. Wouldn't like it. Too bad. It was too weird. The next morning, I come to work at 7:30, and Walt's sitting at my chair. He's in the same clothes he was wearing when he left that afternoon the day before. And he said, I didn't sleep last night. I said, you didn't sleep? Why? And he said, because of all that stuff you showed me, that weird stuff. And he said, Rolly, I know what we're going to do with it.
This is Roland Crump, who for the project here is sort of acting as the interior decorator of a house of what do we call it?
Museum of the Weird.
Museum of the Weird.
And they all said, you know, Rolly, we knew you had something there. And I said, yeah.
And then we built a whole land with time machines and aerial dirigible balloons, and we saw a movie on the docket for Disney called Island at the Top of the World about this flight